Yeah.
Not ready to start?
That's all right, leave it on. Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Everybody said their names, have they?
Yes.
Right. It's Old Timers Week, is it?
Susan is fairly new.
Susan's the only fresh and new one. Well, we'll have to go through the old spiel again, I suppose, just for the name, just in case somebody might have forgotten or don't remember. There she is. We can't tell you anything. We can't teach you anything. All we do is point toward and ask you to look toward where we're pointing to see for yourself. Because that's the important thing. That believed in self, personal self, has to see its true nature, which is not the personal self. So, what we point to is what you'll see in all the great traditions, that it's what they call in Hinduism non-duality, Advaita. Non-duality means not two. Only the one. And everything is that one. There's nothing other than the one. But we've taken on this belief that we are the separate entity, the person. And the Sargata tells you, if he's read his book, I Am That, got a whole chapter on it. The person is not reality. So we're locked into this persona that's mask. That's all persona comes from. Meant in the ancient Latin language as persona, the mask. So we've got a disguise of concepts we've put upon ourselves and taken belief that we are this conceptual image, this persona. And in non-duality they describe it in Hinduism as Sat, Chit, Ananda, Nama, Rupa are the five factors. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, Ananda is bliss or loving to be. They get lost in that term bliss. They think that's some great higher state or something, or blissful. But when they look into it and describe it as a peace that passeth all understanding. So it can't be understood and grasped with a thought. So that is the natural peace that is ever with you. And it can't be understood or grasped with a concept. That's why they say you'll never ever get peace of mind. And it is the peace that passes all understanding. Points out that it can't be understood or grasped with a concept or with the mind. So the peace is when the mind is not. And what's this thing called mind? It's part of the sense of separation which we've taken on board when we learn all these concepts or words. And I tell you that in the scriptures too. my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth unto you, but it is my peace, the peace that passes all understanding. The peace, the one peace, the natural peace, that everything is fashioning, shaping and forming and appearing in. The silence, the stillness, the emptiness. So they call it cognising emptiness also. And we think we've got to cognise or are cognising the emptiness. Cognising is just another name for knowing or being. And we think we are cognising the emptiness, but it's the emptiness itself. It is suffused with that intelligence or knowing or being, which is doing the cognising. And the Buddha elaborated on that a bit when he said emptiness is form, pointing out it's nothing but this emptiness that the pattern, shapes and forms are appearing in. All these seeming things. Emptiness is form, and the form, he points out, can be nothing other than the emptiness. Pointing out it's not two, there's still that one essence that's patterning, shaping and forming, and it is the emptiness that's doing that, and that form has never changed its true nature, which is the emptiness. Anyone who's not knowing or cognising right now, no, you'll say, I'm knowing, I'm cognising, I'm knowing, not realising that it is not you, the person, or the seeming body mind that's cognising or knowing, it's that emptiness itself, as he says. It's forming everything. But we've learnt words and taken on the words and think it's me or I. That's the primary thought. I am. Where does that come from? The primary moan of this manifestation, or the sound, which is that primary sound, they say that Om, or I am. And we translate that I am this body, I am this mind, not realising that the body and the mind are forms appearing in that emptiness, and the emptiness and the form can be nothing other than the emptiness. So you and I and everything in this are that emptiness. Like all the things around you are that emptiness. The chairs you're sitting in, the room we're in, the space in the room. Outside, look outside, the trees and everything outside of there. They're all empty forms appearing in some shaping and form, and the fact that they're able to express in those shapes and forms implies they're suffused with an intelligence, a knowingness. But they're all energy, vibrating into different patterns, shapes and forms. That's why I use the term intelligence energy. Intelligence is knowing. And each and every one of those forms that you're appearing in right now, the things, are suffused with that intelligence, because you wouldn't have the capacity of reasoning or breathing or beating your heart or growing a hair in the fingernail or being alive even or forming as that body. So it's that same intelligence, energy that's patterning, shaping and forming as everything. And look at that word thing. We think we are these body minds, but you're appearing as things. The chair's a thing. the plants and flowers and things, the skies and things. All this manifestation is made up of things. But they're all appearing on the basic screen, which is no thing, or empty of any shape, pattern and form. It's space, as a label they put on it, or space-like. It's not the actual space, it's space-like. Can you find a centre to space? If you can find a static point in it anywhere, can you find a circumference? No, you can't. So, if it hasn't got any centre, it hasn't got any circumference, it hasn't got any shape or form, how real can it be? It can only be real as the space-like emptiness. And though it vibrates and to patterns, shapes and forms, seemingly vibrating, it's still the no thing. Can something come from the no thing? It can't. When we hear that no thing, we say nothing and lose sight of what it actually means. When we say nothing, we think it's zero, zilch, a void. But it's totally different if we say no thing. It means there's no shape or form that is the actual. But the essence of it all is the one essence, appearing, patterning. And what is essence? Well, you can describe that just like, the essence in a bottle of scent, a bottle of lavender water. The essence of the lavender will be in that, or rose essence, or something like that. The essence is a subtle essence within it. And the form, whatever it's appearing in, is that emptiness. It's appearing on that basic space, which they call the basic space of phenomena. And phenomena, definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. It's this manifestation. The nama rupa, the name and form, are the phenomenal manifestation. They say the phenomena is Maya. It's illusory. And the nama rupa is the name, and the form is the body-mind. Maya, illusion. But we're taking them to be real. Seemingly sitting here, they seem solid and real. And there was a time when they were believed to be so. But another term they use is the false cannot stand up to investigation. So question these beliefs that we've taken on board, all made up of words. And how many words were you born with? You weren't born with any words, so how can you say you were born for a start of? And you couldn't say you were born until you learnt words. And you didn't learn any words till about 2.5, when the capacity of reasoning developed in that seeming pattern, shape and form. And we have that capacity of reasoning. We learnt words. And you realise you've learnt a lot of words. That seeming pattern, shape and form that you call you has learned a lot of words. Every word you've ever spoken has been picked up or learned. A lot of words you haven't learned. A lot of words you've forgotten. But the word's not the real. Again, pointing out to the illusoriness of it all. Take the word water. Drink it if you can. Swim in it. Drown in it. Wash in it. You can't. Does the word fire burn your mouth? Cook with it if you can. Heat yourself with it. You can't. So the words we're using are not real. They are ways of describing something or pointing to something. And understand that also, that the description can never be what's being described. What's being described right now is not its description. It's not it. It can point towards it. And like you see signposts on the road all over the place, it's got an arrow pointing in some direction. Now the signpost, the sign that's on the signpost is not the thing, but it's pointing towards where you can go to get to the thing, or the map's not the territory. They use different words to point it out. The map's not the territory and the word's not the thing. So all these things we've taken to be real, solid and substantial, are not what they appear to be. They're only seeming. And the person, as I said before, is not the reality. And the person we've taken when we learn words, I am this person, I am this body, I am this mind. All labels now on that primary thought, I am. So we take it to believe we are this persona, we are this masked conceptual image. And that's the great mantra, I am that. Now that's a bit different to being the person. That is pointing to the reality, the actual known thing that you are. And that is the great mantra, and we know also, if you question it, that everything is that. It's already that. That's the chair you're sitting on, that's the room you're in, that's the body you're appearing in, that's the conceptual image you have about yourself, which is the mind. Everything is already that. And we put that word label, that label on it, that, the thatness. And as I say, we've taken a word to be real and we're locked in words, concepts, ideas, images. Investigate and see, are you the body? And innately you already know that. You say, my body. Don't you say, my house, my car, my coat? And you know already that you're not the coat, you're not the car, you're not the house. Maybe you're not the body either. And when you investigate it, again we go back to what we said before, the false cannot stand up to investigate. Have a look. What's this body made up of? Investigate. As they say, as I told you before, they say the false cannot stand up to investigation. It'll fall apart. If it's truth, it cannot fall apart. But if it's false, and you investigate and look at it, it will fall apart. And you know that again, you've seen that happen. Many things you've seen and believed were true when you first saw them. Believe the sky was blue, the ocean was blue, the water in the mirage was true. You believed a lot of things like that. But when you investigate, it falls apart. The earth was flat. So you see that the false cannot stand up to investigation. So look at this body. What's the body made up of? Your body, you realise the body's made up of elements. Air, earth, fire, water, space. Those elements are labels we put on subatomic particles, pure energy, pure vibration, pure energy. We put the labels on. But take the air out of your body. See how long it'd last without that element. You wouldn't last too long without taking a breath. Take the fire, the body temperature. You soon get hypothermia and die. Take the water. Your body's made up of 60% water. Earth, fire, space, air. I've said all the things, you know. Get off the earth if you can. Get out of space. When you look at it, investigate it, you see you're not separate from those things at all. And all those elements, as the scientists and physicists will tell you, can be broken down to subatomic particles. And the subatomic particles can be broken down to pure energy. So this body's made up of nothing made up of but a vibrating pattern. And the vibrating pattern is energy. It's moving. It's an activity. All energy is activity. And that activity has the capacity of reasoning or knowing. And the knowing or the activity is energy. So it's the activity of knowing. Intelligence is energy. An activity of knowing. And anybody who is not knowing right now, then you must realise, no, I'm already knowing. I can't negate the knowing. And that knowing is seemingly being this body. And that's how they put that Sat Chit Ananda again. Another way of putting it. Being, knowing, and loving to be. Negate your being if you can. You can't. Negate your knowing. You can say, I don't know, but wouldn't it be the knowing that's enabling you to say that? And you love to be. Well, you don't want to be dead right now, do you? So you want to be. And that loving to be is a natural state. That's why they say God is love. God is the pure being, or the only being, the onely, the solitary being. And they say God is love. If God is love, love must be God. And if you love to be, that must be your being. So this so-called God is a label we put on it, which we differentiated. But it tells you that in the Bible also. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. That's all that God is, this label. Word, God. All things were made by Him. It's a Word. All things were made by the Word. And there was nothing made that was made without the Word. Have a look around you. Everything you see, you put labels on it. The chairs, the carpet, the room, the trees, the flowers, all made by the Word. What were they before the Word? What's the cat saying about them? Or the bird? They're seeing them, knowing what they are, but they're not discriminating it with any label. Just a natural cognising of it all. And the cat's not going to run into the chair or the wall because it hasn't got a word for it. It knows what it is and knows what to do. So words are not the enemy. We've taken them to be the enemy. You know, when we look at it and see that the word's not the thing. They can be very useful. They're not the thing. They're a label we put on the thing, a name we put on the thing, but they're not the thing itself. But they're very useful, but they're a vibration. Like everything else, they're a vibration of energy. And have a look at the way this mind functions. And you'll see it's always vibrating. Look at your thoughts and see. You'll either be in the past, which is memory, or the future, which is in that, with its anticipation or imagination. And it'll be constantly vibrating. It'll be good or bad. When you put the words on it, it'll be happy or sad, loving or hating, positive or negative, here or there, high or low. That's the way it vibrates or functions dualistically. The whole manifestation is a dualistic patterning. But what we've done, we've put the labels on and the boundaries on and separated with the word. Day, night, winter, summer. Good, bad. Space, phenomena. All conceptual images or labels. And how many words were you born with? You weren't born with any words. When did words appear on you? So you can't remember your birth. So you don't, this idea of birth and death is only a conceptual image you've taken on board when you learnt words. But looking back on it now with the use of words, you can realise that way back, seemingly way back, somewhere along the line, and as soon as we say seemingly way back, away from here, we've gone into the concept of time. And so, way back, you knew that you were after you've learnt words. Before, there's a pure intelligence there, but you couldn't say, I know this, or I was born, or anything at all. Just that pure being, knowing and loving to be. So we've learnt words like I and me, this and that, and we've separated ourselves. We've taken this I. The word I is the primary thought, and we've divided it, and in that sense, hey, yeah. And when we take ourselves in with these words, what have we done? We've got this word I, but you can't do much with I. So what we do, we put some of these other concepts we've learned onto it to give it some seeming meaning. I'm Bob, I'm the Australian, I'm the good fella, or I'm not so good, or I'm happy, or I'm sad, or I'm depressed. All concepts added onto that I to give it some seeming substance and independent nature of itself. And that's what it's done. We've got this idea that I am Bob, the Australian, the good fellow, all concepts made up of words. And then with that, being a vibration and movement of energy, what comes up? The opposite. And I look over there and say, that's not I. That's not me. That's something other. And with that sense comes a sense of separation. And with that sense of separation comes insecurity. Because that's not I. And at that young age, I don't know what that is. Haven't been told, haven't investigated. So that sense of separation from it brings with it insecurity. Now I'm insecure about that. I don't know what it is. It might hurt me. It might do damage. And with that sense of insecurity comes a vulnerability. I feel very vulnerable about that word. So I've got to do something about it to become more secure. So what happens? I take the belief in it, though. Take a belief in the word. That's separate. That's not me. That's not I. And so there's always, then from the time on, there's always that sense of insecurity and vulnerability. And we want to get back. We want to become complete, whole. Block out that insecurity because it causes all sorts of fear, anxiety, stress, guilt, remorse, jealousy, envy. All these concepts come up from that belief that I'm separate from them, away from them. So that's all my psychological suffering comes about because of this sense of insecurity. And I want to become whole or complete. So I have that word become has come into it. That's a movement away from being. And being will never be becoming. And I will never become. Because now I've got this separate entity that I think is incomplete and vulnerable, needs to become whole. And how many of you looked at it and looked at it for many years and never found the answer? And after some time, looking long enough, it might dawn on you that maybe I've been looking in the wrong direction. I've been trying to work it out in the mind all this time, not realising in what I'm told in the scriptures that the answer is not in the mind. You'll never find the answer in the mind. And they say the answer was when the mind is not. You'll never get peace of mind, which I said before. The mind will never be at peace. That's why they call it the peace that passes all understanding, pointing out clearly that it can never be grasped conceptually, never be grasped in the mind. And all the time, all the seeking I've done has always been in the mind, trying to work it out. No wonder I haven't realised or recognised it, because the answer is not there. So if I look along those lines and say, well, if that's what they're saying is true, the answer's not in the mind, how will I find it? Well, if I ask a simple question like, what is wrong with right now if I don't think about it? What would I have to do to find out about that? I'd have to try and go beyond the mind, stop the mind, or go prior to the mind. And I realised in the looking that I can't stop the mind. The I has got no power or any independent nature of itself. It's a total fiction. It's a word, a concept. And I also realised that every direction I've ever looked has always been in the mind. Always. That's why I've never found the answer. And what way out of the mind? Full stop. Just don't go there. The recognition of that sense of presence, that awareness of being, hasn't disappeared. Because I haven't stopped breathing without the thought. If the thought stops for a while, heart hasn't stopped beating, hair and fingernails haven't stopped growing. All that functioning is going on, but thought has stopped for a brief time. And when that thought was in abeyance for a brief time, there was silence and stillness. Couldn't put those labels on it even. There was just a presence awareness, an awareness of being. And that's there with you right now. Anybody who's unaware right now, you're not. Anyone who's unconscious, you're not unconscious. So existence, consciousness, bliss, or being, knowing and loving, that's happening right now. The only thing that obscures it is thoughts, or words, concepts, ideas, images. Sagata tells you nothing can trouble you excepting your own imagination. Break that word imagination down to image in, imagine, and realise that you are creating conceptual images right now, taking them to be real and living from that point of view. And those images are dead images. Look in the mirror. There's a mirror behind you there. Look into it. What do you see in the mirror? You see nothing but reflections, images in it. You can't say they're not there. Go up to the mirror and try and pull a reflection out of it or an image out of the mirror. You can't. So you can't say it is there, you can't say it's not there. But it appears to be so. And the appearance is not what it seems to be. It's a phenomenal manifestation. Definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So all this manifestation is seemingly so, but it's not real. It's just like the dream. You go to sleep at night and dream a dream. In the dream, you can be in the hills or the ocean or the sea, anywhere at all, or a shopping mall, in a house, anywhere. All sorts of things to be going on. Other people can be there, all going on in the dream. Yet you wake up, it all disappears. You realise when you wake up that your body had not moved off the bed, no words had come out of your mouth. The mountains and the hills, the ocean and everything else you're dreaming of disappear. But you don't realise that you wake up to this dream. This is a living dream, a waking dream. And the only difference between that and the sleeping dream is this waking dream seems to have a continuity about it. It seems to continue every morning from where it left off the night before. And though the hills and the mountains and everything in that dream you dreamed at night have disappeared, in this dream they're still there. They still carry on. And all these things, the trees, the flowers and everything. So it's seemingly more real than the sleeping dream. And it's the one we've taken to be real and lost our true nature in it. So that's what needs to happen. You need to look along these lines and see for yourself. And some of you have looked and seen, and it's taken, a lot of us, it's taken into the path of searching for this or looking for it. Where a lot of others that don't, they're stuck in it for all their lives and stay that way. A lot of others say that, look, there's got to be more to it than this. I've had enough of this. And it takes them a bit further. And they come to look at things like this, what we're pointing to. And many will see through it. But others won't. But whether they do or whether they don't, there's only that, and it's always only and ever been that. And you are that. Anyway, that's enough of that. So you can.
I got some questions.
You can question. You can tell us what your version of it is, how it's going with it, and all the rest of it, because everybody can help somebody else by pointing to it. Or pointing to what they think. Yep, something might resonate with you, you might hear it.
Okay, I'm just going to read the few questions that come from people who are with us. We have about 35 people watching us.
You can give me ears now if you like.
And we have beautiful, warm, welcoming message, words of a love for the family, and thank you for that. And there is a question, first question from Amarnath. Good morning, dear Bob, kindly explain all bodies I am are ours, not only this body. Yet I is beyond this.
Well, it's all vibration.
Mm.
All vibrating into every pattern, every shape and form. What was the rest of it?
Yeah, yet the I is beyond the bodies. It's not just bodies. There are trees, stars, stones, air, thoughts, feelings, all of it is within your field of consciousness.
Yeah.
You are that field of consciousness. Everything that is within your gaze is yours, is the expression of what you are, is the forms that come from the emptiness vibrating.
Yes, and in that vibration it can be a pattern vibrate as anything whatsoever. And everything whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, good question, thank you.
Just a movement of pure energy, intelligent energy.
And there is one from Tanya. Is vegetarianism a belief? Vegetarians don't eat meat, so there is the belief animals shouldn't die to be food. But that is what happens. Or it is an impersonal preference to not eat meat.
Well, if it's an impersonal preference,
yeah.
Well, that's how it is.
Yeah, perhaps both is happening. there is a movement. The life moves you to eat or not eat, this or that or the other, or to do or to dance or to sing. The life does the movement, and then the narrative comes and make it to a story, make it to a belief. So you may be moved not to eat meat, and then mind quickly look for justification. Oh, this is bad to kill, or it's not good for you. Whatever the story is, there is a movement, natural functioning, and there is a justification of it, because that's the function of the mind, to just overlay with the story, make it attractive, whatever. That's
with the capacity of reasoning comes on. The reasoning, innate intelligence might reason that this is not healthy for me, or something like that will come up as words.
Yes.
And then you might follow that, it might not, all depends how attuned you are.
But even it becomes personal, it may become belief, it may become religion, it may become a fanatical movement, it may make you hate everyone who does something else, and that is where it becomes really personal, and it becomes really it causes suffering, because it causes separation. Now if whatever you eat becomes who you are, then everyone who eats something else is the enemy. So that's that's the flip side of the narrative, when it becomes personalized and it becomes the religion. And
so it all comes back to that persona, the mask, doesn't it? The concept.
Yeah. Wait, I'll give you the speaker. Oh, thank you. Oh, yes.
There's this movement, and it goes on, and it takes all sorts of forms. But what happens, mind comes up, makes a judgment about it, and that makes absolutely no difference at all. The movement just continues.
Because the mind is moving also.
Yeah.
It's all that.
I think
Come on, you got it, who say something?
Well, I've been vegetarian since 1995, but I feed meat to my children. My husband eats it, and I realized early on that if I had a shooting about eating meat, I would be lonely diner. It's my personal preference. What comes to my mind, and I would love Bob's feedback on it, is just a quote that I heard back in the early 90s, is that that we do things for emotional reasons and we justify it with logic.
Beautiful.
But maybe that's not true for someone who is not moved emotionally, like yourselves.
He's got wonderful emotional life.
But is he moved by it? Like, does he go, oh, I'm scared, I'm gonna die, or I'm gonna feel bad if I don't do this, I'll feel guilty. That doesn't show up so much, does it? So that you're not as moved for emotional reasons. You just are just moved, and then stuff happens. But there's not a reason. There's nothing that's like shooting on you that if I have to do this, there's like, oh my God, you're not as emotionally moved, right? So this is for most people. We're moved for emotional reasons and justify it with logic. But there's a but. I think there may...
Emotion, because emotion is energy in motion. You don't have to label it for it to be emotion. If you label it fear, then yes, you have the story. Because what's your definition of emotion?
Touche.
Because the energy moves in everyone.
Thought, feeling, emotion, the three aspects of the one thing. First will be the subtle thought, then the sensation or the feeling will come up, and that's there long enough, then the emotion. The tears or the anger or the depression or the guilt, they'll come up. Three aspects of the one thing. Still the same thing. Just like steam, water and ice. Three aspects of H2O. Yeah. First of all, the heat will evaporate the water and form the steam. Steam cool down a bit and become the water. Then the water will solidify and become ice. So the same with this, with the thought first, very subtle. Then the feeling, the sensation, this is anger and this is fear, and then the emotion will affect the body.
Mm. And there is an answer here to the same topic, I believe, from Rohan. to the vegetarian thing, that's only one reason why people don't eat meat. In the Hindu traditions, there is more to do with the perceived effect of eating meat on the mind. It is difficult enough to shift attention from the content of the mind to its source, as we know. It is, though, that certain foods such as meat make this more challenging by creating mental agitation on account of the suffering of the animal. Yeah, that's another way of looking at it and justifying it. Thanks, Rohan. Tanya says, did not know that reason for not eating meat. Very interesting. I did notice when I stopped eating meat, there was more calmness. Yeah, Bob mentioned also the health of the body, like the animal protein makes the body a little bit more acidic and prone to catching all the viruses and diseases. When he got on the alkaline food, he got much, much healthier.
Can I
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't worry about that. It's a short one.
That's okay.
Why not be like the Buddhist monk who goes into the burger joint and says, "Make me one with everything"? There's no question of vegetarian or meat. Thank you.
It becomes an elitist. The whole vegetarian thing can become an elitist thing too. And it's whether you're pure or impure. All these concepts get laid on that idea. It might be more healthy, but then the sense of belief creeps in, you know, and it really has nothing to do with being more spiritual or less spiritual or more pure or more less pure. You know, I think that's a judgment that people lay on it, and it can become an elitist idea as well. I was vegetarian for 30 years and then dropped it and just became normal, you know, and I don't eat that much meat, but it's got nothing to do with being more spiritual or less spiritual, which I think people have a strong belief in that, because it's an Eastern tradition, and like all the traditions in the East, we took them on board here without questioning, especially in the 70s and 80s when I grew up. And you know, we tossed out the Christian traditions, the Western traditions. Along came the Eastern traditions, ideas of vegetarianism, enlightenment and everything, took them all on board without questioning. And they're just concepts. You know, I like the fact here Bob is more like, it's almost more rational or more scientific in a way, the approach, because you break everything down and see it for what it is, rather than go by the concept of belief, which all the traditions have in them, really. It's just that they've accumulated belief after belief after belief, and we haven't questioned them. And it's a lot more straightforward and simpler than all that. I think it's very important to just toss out all these spiritual concepts, so that you can look clearly, like what Bob's pointing to, very, very clearly here, as to what's actually going on, as opposed to a belief or concept.
Can I offer something? Thank you. For those that don't know me, my name is Giuseppe. I found out a few years ago that the Dalai Lama eats meat, and there are Buddhist monks that eat meat as well.
The Buddha ate meat.
Yeah, and
He died from bad meat.
Yeah.
I know from a personal experience when I went vegetarian, because it was a spiritual thing to do, you know, like I noticed my energies weren't quite right in my body. I didn't feel, I felt okay, but there was something in how I know I am when I'm feeling well, really well. So I researched stuff, and I found out, you probably all know this, there's a thing to the blood types. There's a particular thing of blood types where one blood type needs a lot of meat, another blood type needs very little meat if it can be vegetarian really well, and there's another blood type that needs a balance. And I found what blood type I was, and I realised that, you know, just in listening to my body, it tells me now when I actually need meat, and even what type of meat I need. Like, it'll tell me, okay, I need chicken or I need fish, and if it wants a particular meat, you can't give me fish if I'm feeling chicken. Like I won't eat it. You know, people call me fussy, but it's like my body itself knows. So whether the body's own intelligence has that innate higher consciousness that it knows how to maintain itself just by being present to it. So I found that has worked really well for me. And of course, gratitude and blessing for anything we eat, especially the life of the animal and the spirit of the animal before we eat it, you know, in appreciation for what's there. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I went fishing the other day and caught a chicken.
And it all goes back to what I was saying, talking about spirit and matter. We've separated them. But spirit doesn't know matter. Spirit is the essence of everything. Matter is congealed spirit. That's all it is. It's become solid like the water has become ice. Same in this one.
Spirit's a very conceptual word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? Really, it's not a being or a
So we're looking for the spirits. What are we looking for?
What are we looking for? Energy.
Yeah.
Can I jump in again?
Got this one.
So when I went vegetarian, I gained 100 pounds.
Did you eat the carbohydrate?
Huh?
You eat more carbohydrate.
Well, yeah. I mean, because I was like substituting meat like for cheese and carbohydrates and stuff like that. And at the same time, so with my children and my husband, when I go grocery shopping, I do buy meat, but I'll go out of my way to look for sources of meat where I at least have the belief, okay, that the animal was living in a more compassionate lifestyle, you know what I mean? That was free-range chicken, if I can find it. But that might be also a belief that it should have a nice lifestyle. I don't know.
I have a funny twist to this one. It is a part of the story that science is presenting, that if humanity will continue insisting on abusing, cutting up forests and making it the field to feed the animals, that is the way we go. That is the way the humanity will end, because the water will run out, the food, the animal, because we are producing all the plants to feed the cow, which is going to feed one family for 2 dinners or 3 dinners, and we spending so. But that's the story.
It's not
And-
just the cow, though. My son Braden was watching a documentary he made
Yes,
me watch called
everything.
Seaspiracy. It's on Netflix now.
Yeah.
So Seaspiracy is about how, like, unless you're catching the fish yourself, you know, chances are you're supporting some enormous fishing company that's killing whales and dolphins and fish, and they're taking all the fish from the ocean. It's going to kill the ocean, and the ocean is actually where we get most of our air from, not the Amazon, right? So it's like, he's like, oh, eating fish is even worse than eating a cow. And so, yeah, I don't know. But again, we're kind of digressing, aren't we? So
Yeah, the sweet thing is that whatever happens, whichever way nature is gonna twist that humanity, who cares? It finds the way to express itself.
Expresses itself naturally, doesn't it? I remember years and
Become
years
an
ago,
ocean.
20 years, maybe 20 years ago, sitting in this room and listening to Bob. And he said, this planet could blow up
Yeah.
right now, and all it would be dust floating around. Nothing would be lost.
Yeah.
You couldn't call it a planet anymore. And it was like, it was so shocking to hear that because it was true. But it just annihilates all of our stories.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what about humanity and the story of humanity? And, you know, who's going to be around to be told to or listen to the story anyway? So it's, but, you know, nothing is lost. What is lost? You remember that, Bob?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Mm.
I also like the way one time we were talking about the end of humanity. And that could happen in my children's lifetime. I think it's incredibly optimistic to have a child these days. Okay? And she said, it was just something so romantic about the way she put it. We all go down together holding hands. Like, all at once. The end, we see it together, like.
Vegetarians, meat eaters.
Yeah, all of us, yes, all at once. Hand in hand, or fist in fist.
But there is something beautiful about nature, because it's not of the mind. It's not made of mind. It's just that pure intelligence. And, the beauty of nature is, what we are too. We are nature. We're not people, as Bob keeps saying. So I think that's why we have such an affinity with the natural environment, because it's fantastic. It's just amazing and beautiful. And I think there's a natural motivation in us that wants to care and protect, because we are nature. We are not just part. We are part and parcel of the world. So I think there will always be people that will respond in a way to care and protect, whether that happens or not. And it will blow up probably one day. But it's not of the mind, which is the main thing. It's not, of the human mind.
Yeah, we got a couple of answers here. I fixed it on you. Maybe you want to comment on this? Yeah, so this is the one from. Oh, it's quite a few. Rosa, could you expand on the concept of impersonal preference? Thank you. Impersonal preference. I think the easy way to address it is just look at the animals. They all have preference for foods, behaviors, and they don't have persona. They don't imagine that there is anyone inside running the show. They don't have narrative self. Can you add to it?
A little preference.
Impersonal.
Yeah. The great way
It's not difficult.
is not difficult for those who have no preferences.
Oh, hold. No.
I have a preference for no preference. When love and hate are both absent, everything's clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart.
But wouldn't that be the distinction psychologically? Because we do have preference whether we want chicken or meat, or whether I want to wear blue or black. That's
You can call it preference.
That's just a.
That's the way the spontaneous
Yeah, you might prefer to wear brown over black or whatever it is, or to eat this or that. But it's the psychological distinction. I'm good, I'm not bad, because then that creates the problem. Whether you prefer to this colour or that colour is not problematic.
Who's the preference holder?
And who is the preference holder? Yeah, that's the essence.
Yeah, taking the ownership of preference and
The
saying
ownership.
my preference is better than yours, for example.
Yeah, which creates division, and then the problems arise.
You know how I got myself to go vegetarian, though? Because I didn't have enough of an intellect. I wasn't driven. I wasn't driven to just stop eating bacon. I loved bacon. That was like my favorite. I needed the emotional reason, so I created the emotional reason. I watched a PETA video about how animals are tortured before they killed them, and then I couldn't do it again. I don't think I could go back to eating meat. You know what I mean? I don't, because I think, like, it goes in my head, like, immediately. So, this emotional reason, isn't there little head stuff involved with it? Perhaps?
In the narrative is always head involved. Stop thinking and see what's happening.
Watch the mind and see how it.
Yes.
Depends on if that's your image too.
Can you pass
There's
it
a lot
on?
of image making around what we eat, what we don't eat, what we wear, etc. But that's your preference. I don't need that.
Well, if you just consider, Nisargadatta, and the only advice that Siddha Rameshwar gave him was to stay with that I am. He didn't say stay with that I am a vegetarian, or I am a meat eater, or I am a woman, I am a man, or it's what we add to that I am
Beautiful.
I am as the absolute.
And in your own experiencing, if you actually say the words silently or softly to yourself, there's a kind of a vibration that happens inside the body, where the I is down here and the am, it goes up to the head. So it's almost like a connection that's happening. And then if you start adding a story, you know, I am this, I am that, it dissipates into, you know, a kind of a dream. If you stay with that, you know, that primary Om vibration, and just stay there, the mind just is empty.
The I am is the sense of presence.
Yeah.
Wait, darling, wait. Wait, say it again.
Yeah. But people are looking for a proof, or they want to, you know, they want. Surely you can pick up the sound. People want proof, or they want some sort of verification that they can know for themselves. But you know, the investigation has to be made for oneself. It's pointless somebody else telling you, because you have to see for yourself. And it's not that you need to see something. You have to recognise that no thing, that cognising is not personal. It's like, in the way I express it, is that seeing is happening spontaneously. Acknowledge the fact that you are not doing the seeing.
Yes.
Where does the idea of I'm doing the seeing come in? Through imagination. And the hearing is happening spontaneously, the knowing is happening spontaneously. Just acknowledge and recognise that. And then that puts an end to this story about me. But it appears that that's too much. What about me? What about my progress? You know, I've done all these, 20 years of meditation, you know, I've got some credit, surely.
It's staying in the knowing without question, without judgment, without anything. It just is. It just is this way, and there's nothing really else to say about it. You know, there's a big story, and we get involved with this story, but that doesn't affect anything.
No.
This arises. Finish.
Leave it as it is.
Yeah.
What about me? Well, that's the habit, isn't it? It's the habit it's what we've been taught. Our conditioning is always to improve and to fix. So really we have to go against a whole, you know, years and years of conditioning, generations of conditioning of using the mind to fix something. So this is totally the opposite, because you realise that the mind that wants to fix is the me, which is fictitious, and it's very limited because it's of the mind. And to understand the limitation of the mind is so important. You know, you don't have to do anything about that you are, because that's already that. But it's the mind, and it's you know, it can fix a car, it can fix a problem, and it needs to. It's great for that. But in this, it has no place. And so that's the challenge, in a way, to always see that the limitation of the mind that we're so taught to use, taught to use the mind from a very young age, and it's forgotten what the actuality is, or no one really knows anymore, you know. So there you go.
All it does is distraction. They're all secondary problems. You know, the diet, the colors you wear. Some spiritual circles believe you should only wear white for some reasons. They all distractions from what's essential.
Even the more subtle spiritual groups, you know, the subtle ones of meditation and all the rest of it. You could go on and on. The Zen things, the refined meditation techniques, to sort of have to realise that you have to throw all that away is a challenge in itself, because, you know, people dedicate, like, you know, years and years of their life. and it's not really going to do anything. It might quieten the mind for a while, but unless the self-centre is seen for what it is, it can't go further than that.
Bob has a beautiful saying on this one. He says, nothing can be put to the full cup. You gotta empty the cup so that something can go in.
The sense of presence, when he says stay with the I amness, he doesn't mean stay with the thought. Stay with the sense of presence. Sense of presence translates as the thought I am. It's not the thought itself, that's just a translation, I am. But anybody who's not aware of being present right now, that sense of presence is with you right in this moment. You don't have to look for it, don't have to do anything about it. But to say anything about it, say I am, but then we don't leave it at that. Then we say I am Bob, or I am this, or I am that. But if I am the absolute, or the pure sense of presence, what can you add to that or take away from it? Or the great perfection? They give us
Science is, it can't be that simple, Bob. It can't be that simple.
Yeah, we have a couple of comments here also from Dee. I was vegetarian for decades, mostly for ideological reasons. I started eating fish and chicken, but after a while started tasting the stuff under the masking agents, butter, oil, salt, sauces. And that was the end of fish and chicken in my diet. That's just a sharing. The aspects, there are so many aspects if you want to really get distracted from the essential, which is the I am, the sense of presence. Henya, hello Bob and Kat and all. Like in labels, all concepts just post-it notes attached to appearance. A wind can come and gently blow all the post-it notes, can scatter and fly away. This is the recognizing. Beautifully said. And Nasser, and that's a long one. Things like vegetarianism or carnivorism are just about making our experience of life better. The real question is who is experiencing this life? Who am I? Who is asking this question? You can improve the dream, but it is still a dream. You can exchange your chains of iron to the chains of gold, but you are still chained. Gorgeous. Yeah. Beautiful. Amarnath, thinking is based on personality and preferences. In the absence of both, we cannot think at all. And now Tanya, wow, yes, those are questions that are what reveal recognition. What is true? I think we up to date. Yeah, back on the topic, out from the distractions, preferences, colors, foods, all of it. And still, the entertaining aspects to it. There's so much philosophy. Mind is such a wonderful distractor. It takes you for the trips, which are so magnificent, so enticing, so emotional, so attractive, so seductive. Yeah. Just acknowledging. Yeah, just acknowledging that beautiful capacity, because this mind, this distractive mind, is also an expression of that. It's beautiful, it's amazing. But if you see it as an object, like Gilbert was saying, watch the mind. You're already acknowledging that whole distraction pattern in the consciousness as an object in the consciousness. So you're not it. You don't have to defend it. You don't have to identify with it. You don't have to convince anyone else that this one is right and others are wrong. No, it's just you see it for what it is. It's just the beautiful flowers on the field, just the clouds in the sky. They move on, they change.
What resonates with this particular pattern?
Yeah.
That's an innate resonation is a innate recognising that you're already that.
No separation.
Oh.
Yeah. I think
one essence, patterning, shaping, forming, pairing, expressing as everything, and the no thing also.
Mm-hmm. And Amarnath says, no one is listening, telling inside the story.
Oh.
Inside the story. Life a story. No one exists, but only existence. That's right. And Michael, what about me? It isn't fair. I've had enough. And I want my share, laughing out loud. Winnie's song from the 70s. Beautiful. And Julia, is anyone really improving the dream? Or is that what arises in the mind adds on a beautiful story? Yeah. Again, both can be said to be true. The movement to paint the house, to make it, or paint the face, or whatever, is coming from the functioning, and then the narrative comes and say, I did it, I'm improving my looks, I'm improving my dream. Yeah. So
Did you fire your synapses?
it's a good question.
No, there's nothing else to say.
Oh yeah. Okay. And we have one more here. Amarnath says, dream with or without dreamer is just awareness, and joy without enjoyer. Enjoying.
Why are you unhappy forever? Because everything you say, everything you think, and everything you do is for yourself. And there isn't one. Way, way, way.
The truth shall set you free, but first it might piss you off. I think that is really the cause of the suffering is buying into bullshit. Really, we bought into a lie of a me, or anytime we catch ourselves, catch the lie. And you realize the truth, you might be a little pissed off.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just so liberating to see, oh, yeah. It was a mirage.
Yes, we're all bought into it, but not everybody wants to get out of it.
And if you didn't really buy into it, how could you even get out of it? The whole possibility of getting out of it is that you have to be in it first. So you have to imagine that you are a person, imagine that you are separate, imagine that you are suffering little thing, incomplete thing, full of insecurities and void, and separated from the absolute, something small and insignificant. And then you just throw that shell away. See, it's just imagined. It's a phantom. You're not a form. How could you? The fact that you're using a car doesn't say you are a car. Or you're wearing a coat. You're not a coat.
You have a body. You're not a body.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean, again, that what you are is excluded or separated from the body. No, it's all inclusive. Bodies are in it. Like everything that appears in that field of awareness is of the field of awareness. All the bodies.
If you see that you've invested, here comes the microphone.
Yeah.
If you see that you've invested in a counterfeit company and you've put all your savings in there, and you've invested in a counterfeit company, but you thought it was genuine. They convinced you it was totally genuine, and you can make out a lot of money, profit, whatever. And then you find out it's a counterfeit. The whole thing is counterfeit. And it's like you might be a bit pissed off. But you're not going to invest any more into it. You know? You're not going to put another cent into that company.
You're going to pull your money out as fast as possible, aren't you?
Yeah, so when you recognise that the me is a fiction, how can you ever believe in it again? It still will appear as a seeming habitual pattern. And we, as you say, we all say me or I, but we know what it is. And, if you stop, I remember 20 years ago, going to cafes and things with people that come to the meeting, There lots of people would not use the word I. You know, they'd always speak in the third person or something. Or, and then this absurd thing of sitting in a chair is happening. It's like, what the hell, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, are we all that weird? We've got to create a new language where we've got to say sitting in a chair is happening. There's no one sitting in a chair. You know? I mean...
Like the joke of non-dual Dan calling Susie, the body labeled.
Yeah.
Susie.
The body-mind organism.
Labeled.
Anyway, they're all labels. It's all good.
Yeah, this is also a fun play of life. All that idiosyncrasies and funny concepts. I think we have another comment. Am I wrong? Yep. It's a bit of a nuisance, but
I was very grateful being in the United States, being able to listen to this. So,
okay.
I mean, it's a nuisance, but I'm
Oh,
sure
no.
35 people and the thousands who will watch this on YouTube are very grateful.
yeah, no, there's no complaint. It's not that big of a nuisance. It's actually an honor to have people who actually are open and receptive to receive that frequency. It's not really. Tanya, thought distracts and entertains a lot here. Nothing wrong with that. The thought comes up that it would be great if there was less distraction, but that's not what is happening, and that can't be made to happen. That's correct, that's right. Even a preference for less thinking is just another thought. It is not stitched anywhere in your head. It's like a cloud on the sky. Tanya, just realize you are not in the thoughts, lies. Yeah, whatever the body does, think, whatever's happening is... it's the no thing. Like Bob said on the beginning, and I love that beautiful distinction between the no thing and nothing. It's neither. It's neither a thing. That's why we say no thing. But it's also not nothing. Nothing can be said about it. It's like, really, you follow back the seeing, and what you find at the end of when it starts, nothing can be said about it. You can't say there is a thing there. You can't say there is no thing there. You can't say there is nothing. It is beyond the description, beyond the symbolic language. And that's great, because that puts the mind at rest.
And yet, this is what we're talking about all the time.
That's right, yeah.
That's all we're ever talking about. But whatever labels we put on it, it's not that. Whatever label you put on it, it's not that.
That's right.
Because the label is not the thing. The description is not the described. The map is not the territory, and on we go. The singer is not the song.
And there's no sort of end point, because life is full of challenges. There are challenges, and this sort of understanding, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't mean that life's not going to bring up challenges. Of course it will,
Yes.
And there's no end point. It's like life is just unfolding and happening, and to sort of see that in the heat of the moment, to see the truth in the heat of the moment, then the living life can just unfold as it's meant to be. I just want to make that point, that it's not.
Yes.
There are challenges, and these insights can be very, very helpful with those challenges in life.
They become an opportunity to challenge.
An opportunity, yeah.
For me, well, not me, but in this, yeah.
Third person, the body mind labels Julia.
The body mind. I actually was working on my own book once, and I noticed that, like, I wanted to do that because sometimes it's easier to explain this to other people when you do it in a third person. You know what I mean? At the same time, right, whatever. But what was I babbling about?
It's a challenge for you.
The challenges being the opportunity, or the opportunity. Yeah, the challenges that arise are always an opportunity for me to look and see that there is a me that's getting upset.
But the seeing is happening spontaneously.
Yeah, and that happens spontaneously, or it doesn't.
You can't see anything.
Right. I can't see shit.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't do anything, and I never thought anything either.
Totally useless.
Completely. Absolutely.
What concept? What did Bob say? Everyone has a concept about you in this room,
Yes.
and you've got a concept about everyone
About
else,
you,
and you've
yeah.
got a concept about yourself. Which one is right? None of them.
Yeah, we got a comment from. There is a nice comment from Rohan. Gilbert cutting through the crap as usual. Love it.
Rohan.
Beautiful. And there is a comment from Armanath. Is a word a thing? Quoting Bob. Also mind, language, talk. And Caroline, I find it helps to get distance. The ego instead of my ego, for example. Whatever you define as ego, yeah? Why not? Whatever works. Some people define ego as personality. Some people define ego as attachment to personality. Some people define ego as some sort of a behavior pattern. So, who knows? Some define ego as selfishness. Whatever works.
Stop
No
defining
such thing.
Yeah.
it. Stop defining it. It doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't.
What's wrong with right now if you don't think about it?
Yeah, you make things, you create things by believing, by labeling it, by defining it. Yeah, you create the countries by defining the borders. You create the whatever the.
But it's an illusion of creation.
Yeah,
It's
then
not
we-
nothing.
Yeah,
We create the
absolutely.
borders
It's a
and then
dream.
We create the division.
Yeah.
That,
You
yeah,
know,
Then
you're
we
this
have to-
nationality, I'm this.
that's
you're
right.
You're
That's
of that religion, I'm of that religion. I mean, religion has caused the greatest division in the world, ironically, and it's meant to create unity.
I think the Buddha said, with our thoughts we make the world.
yes.
And I say, and then we start complaining about the world.
Yeah, we create something that we complain
Why
about.
is it like this? Why does it always happen to me? That's enough.
But language itself, which is interesting, I think language itself is the divider, isn't it? Because the language is the thought. Language, we don't realise, creates division. And that's okay because we need it. Language and thought, we need it to function in the world. But that's the illusion, isn't it, that language has created? That it's just a slice of life. To say something is warm, hot or cold, it has to be relative to something else. And that goes for everything, including the sense of I.
But
So
if you-
language has to be understood. Bob's going to say something, I can see.
Yeah.
Wait, darling.
Which I quoted,
Wait.
which I quoted from earlier says,
Hinsing Ming.
yeah, at the end of it it says words, the way is beyond language.
Yeah, that's the awareness, the presence, which is beyond words,
Doesn't need the word. Yeah.
which no one has ever told us about. And children, we're never told that.
No.
It should be on the curriculum. No, we should be taught that distinction.
And at the same time, isn't it wonderful, the whole dream? If not for the words, if not for the divisions, the labels, the stories, if we wouldn't train our perception to see solid objects, to understand music, poetry, that, yes, on one hand, it is a trap, it's a double bind because it causes suffering, but it also causes amazing appreciation and love and beauty for whatever is created within the dream.
Seen for what it is, I suppose.
Yes.
Not to eliminate it.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
I'm totally with you about this should be taught. I'm shooting on it. Okay, should. You know, I've got, huh? No, you can't teach it, but you could discuss it, okay, early on, and you can have a discussion, at least, so that they can see that their mind is creating drama.
The other option is to actually really hear the pointers. Like Bob's pointer, watch the mind and see how it operates. That is in my estimation, that is probably the best pointer of all, because then it's you. You have to watch your own mind, and it's effortless to do that. It's happening now. But you see, you recognise that the mind cannot actually divide anything. It just puts labels on things. You put a label on something, it doesn't divide it from the wholeness. It seemingly does, because of my preferences. I like that chair, I don't like that chair. Let's get rid of that chair, I'll keep this chair. But if you actually watch the mind, it's, and I'm not talking shit, I've seen it for myself. If you watch the mind, you will recognise that the mind cannot divide anything. It's just words and labels, and they're all transient, they're temporal, they come, they go, and a thought doesn't have any duration. So the pure mind, or the true nature of the mind, is clear and empty, like the sky is clear and empty, and the blueness appears, the clouds appear, the storms, the birds, the planes, the kites, and now we have, what are those things called? Drones. The eye in the sky. And but the actual clarity is there. People think that clarity is something that you get from as a reward for doing your meditation or whatever. But clarity is like a quality of the cosmos. Yeah. It's already there. It's only our belief in these ideas of me, and I'm not there yet. I've got to do more meditation. Got to give more money to the guru, and kiss his feet. And repeat that. I've got to give much more money to the guru, and they're all concepts.
Yeah. And at the same time, these concepts, I would just love to hear what you have to think about this, Mr. Cut-Through. Is I have 2 children, and I trained these children to buy into concepts. So what? It would have been a problem if they didn't, right?
In the Mahabharata, it says, when you prefer your children over the children of others, and there are millions of children in the world, but you're my children. When you prefer my children over the children of others, is the beginning of war.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
It's there in the books. Nobody hears it.
That's beautiful. And so, it's not just my children; it's the children of others. I think it's not just mine. I just feel like that schools, if we discuss this, I feel like teaching, for example, letting go. That was something that got me turned on to this, right?
But now
I haven't
now they teach meditation, and that's going to be the most destructive thing.
Well, but letting go, okay, would include letting go of the me.
People that know this, you don't
The
get
river
the
flows
teachers
where
that-
it flows.
Yeah, life does it
People
all.
find their
You'll
way
do
to
it.
Bob or to Niska.
But you can discuss it with your own children.
I do. They don't want to hear it from me. Trust me.
And that's also life does it. It all resolves itself in a way it does. Everything evolves and changes the way it does. Thinking and talking about it just puts you astray, just bring you back to the entertainment of the distractor.
And the bottom line is nothing really ever happened.
There you go. Yeah.
And you can recognise that in your own, inside your head, if you really look in there. If you look inside your own mind, so to speak, there's an emptiness there. You can't find a self-centre, you can't find a me, you can't find a top to it, you can't find a back to it, a side to it, a bottom to it. Recognise that in there, where you're seeing from, there's no one there. It's just, we can't even put a label on it, but we call it awareness or consciousness. There's no one in there suffering. this is a dramatic thing to recognise for people who are depressed. If they actually look for this self-centre and recognise that it's not there, where is the story of I'm suffering going to attach itself? It can't. It has to fall away. And it falls away with the recognition I'm not that. All my life I've believed I'm this story, I'm this sufferer. But you recognise I'm not that, it's over. Why would you go back? I say psychological suffering is unnecessary. Who's going to argue with that? An idiot will. But what benefit is there?
The concept of suffering is what the suffering is.
Yeah, the story.
It's the concept of suffering.
I'm suffering. And you don't care that I'm
The
suffering.
concept that we give suffering. Suffering has a certain thing of it's either pleasant and we're not suffering, or there's a reaction that is unpleasant
conflict.
and that's suffering.
It's conflict,
We
yeah.
go that.
And then you think that when there is a difficulty, well, now I'm not there yet. Now
Yeah.
I'm not there,
Yeah.
and then that complicates it as well.
Maybe tomorrow.
Because that's a trap too. That because life is challenging, like it's already been said, and we meet challenges in different ways, and then you start to think, well, things aren't going right. I'm not there yet. I haven't seen this or whatever it is. But that's because you just created another thought on top of that. Things can be challenging.
Sense of separation.
Yeah.
Suffering only came about because of the sense of separation. If you're not separate, who's going to suffer? And we've taken on the belief that we're separate entities, and we suffer accordingly. Only me that can be fearful, unhappy, depressed, guilty. All happens to the believed in me.
I've got a couple of comments more. I've got a nice few words of gratitude for us to be there and do this. And thank you, Michael. And making this available online for times we can't be there. And Amarnath is asking about the comment on inside thoughts and outside perception phenomenon. On both are just pattern only, not reality. Yep, he answers his own questions. Good on you. And then we have Julia says she does it with her own children. Robert, yeah. Watch the mind. Tanya, mind thought narrates that which has no narration. Nazar says it's all about what you identify with. It's okay to say me, but do you identify with it? Do you identify with your problems? If you don't identify with anything the mind comes up with, soon a different awareness arises. Gilbert, simply superb, Amarnath says. And beautiful. Tanya, so true, Gilbert. There is nothing there. No one seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, thinking, suffering. Such a joy to hear these words, pointers. Thank you. And John, devotion is not done with the mind but the heart. The mind will never understand this. The religions and mystical traditions understood this and placed importance on devotion to take one beyond beyond the mind, yes. Yeah, that's, sometimes few lines that get lost. And Michael, Sadhguru says in some Indian schools the children are taught their cosmic identity before they are taught anything else. They are not their name and don't belong to their parents or country, etc. Cool.
What schools are those?
Indian.
In India.
Yeah. Ripened, but there is faller as ego doesn't exist. This is when somebody Robert comment, the fruit falls when it's ready. And Amarnath says ripened, but there is no faller as ego doesn't exist. And now Robert says no need for suffering. And Tanya, so much love and gratitude for this beautiful meeting. Thank you for revealing, pointing to what I really am. And Julia, watching from Darwin on holidays. So much love for you all. And Sally, also thanking for the opportunity to sit and be in the presence. I have a question also for everyone who is watching us and for everyone here. We had the request from a couple of ladies to do the meetings next time at 10:30. How do you feel about that? I mean, I know that people in Europe will be a little bit late. They will have to watch the recording. But everyone else, would you be happy to come at 10:30?
Does that suit you?
Yeah, we fine. We're here for you. But the two ladies who live a little bit far away, they couldn't make it today because it would. Well, they could come late. They did a couple of times before, but they just requested that if we move it, that would be more convenient. And yeah, in a couple of weeks, or 2 or 3 weeks, Bob is going to the hospital for the knee replacement, so there will be a little bit of a break. So if anyone who wants to schedule a Skype call, the time is now, because the break will be a little bit, you will be out of Skype for a couple of weeks.
Get it while you can now.
Yeah, the time is now. And also, if anyone wants to join us for a group meeting and is around, then the time is now too. So are we happy for 10:30?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, okay.
Time's only a concept anyway.
That's true.
So when is that?
Next
when
Sunday.
Is that next?
Next Sunday we will
18th.
meet at 10:30, and then we will just do regular Sundays at 10:30 instead of 10. For people who are in America, there will be half an hour later from whatever it is now, or New Zealand, because there are people from different parts of the world who are with us here. So I don't really. It's just half an hour later. That's probably easier to say. We're gonna start, and I will put the note at 10 o'clock that in half an hour we go online. So that will be. I'll make it as easy as we can.
It's really late in Europe now anyway.
I know. Before the time changed, it was reasonable, but now it's quite late.
But it's always now,
It's always now.
wherever you are.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so thank you everyone. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your lucid pointers and contributions. That's what makes it beautiful and helpful. And thank you everyone on the online. Are we going for lunch?
That's it.
Mm.
Over.